Hello, plebs, we're back with the top 5 best budget decks of the format. Have you noticed something common in my videos? For the number 5 spot, I usually always have dinosaurs. You know why I usually put dinosaurs in last place? As always, because I know it's a popular a popular dirt cheap deck that you can play, especially now with the new boss monster that came out in the Extreme Forces pack. But I just don't like the deck. That's why I usually just give it the shot to the number 5 spot. So yeah, simple standard reasoning. You have Ultimate Conductor Tyranno, blah 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 blah. If you can afford it, you can throw the 3 diagrams with the True King engine in there and make it something. If you can't afford Ash Blossoms, you can play Ghost Ogre instead. You don't have Maxi anymore, so that's gonna fucking suck for your budget. Because Maxi was an affordable hand trap. I guess if you're not really a fan of getting evenly matched, you can side some Lancias or something for like a one-time protection thingy or something like that. Maybe you can even play a Mind Crusher 2 on your side deck, you know? Just a little moral tech, spicy techs that we can just throw down your way. Hey, so yeah, overall very solid. The deck has a very strong reputation of being very solid over a period of time as a budget deck, and basically became the new Monarchs of the era in a sense. Because Monarchs was the budget deck that was a structure deck at its time. Dinosaurs basically took that spot over. But you know, Monarchs are still Monarchs, Dinosaurs will be Dinosaurs for now. Until the next structure deck comes out and takes them out at the highest spot. Generally, Impact, I say Monarchs number 1, Dinosaurs number 2, and the kind of fairy structure deck's impact is going to be determined for certain factors. But we're going to get to that more into the video. But before we pursue any further, I wanted to get some honorable mentions out of the way for the duration of the list. I just wanted to get this one out of the way because this one is most standard as to why it's a budget deck. The rest of my options are going to be either options you've already seen me done before or unorthodox choices. So the other 2 honorable mentions were Pendulum Magician and Blue Eyes. Pendulum Magician as a budget deck may still stand, but now you lost Skullcrab Joker and Double Iris, it's going to be harder for you to have the consistency you need. Sure, you have Pendulum Claw, but now, in my personal opinion, for the deck to really have the boards that it really needs in order to be strong, you need the new Metalfoes Link monster for it to run. And that's like a $76, $79 staple right there. And you probably need 2 copies of that in your extra. So you're not going to be getting anywhere with that. And you're going to be needing to play the bird. The bird, who I also refer to as Apex Avion. I call him the bird because that's what he is. The legendary bird that will always find use in the Pendulum deck, no matter what. And now the deck is much less stabilized in consistency. It's going to be much more subsidized on running hand traps as it was before. So, sure, you can run Ghost Ogres over Ash Blossoms, but still, again, the same problem rises as before. You're not having the impact that you need to have with the deck for it to get really far. So, that, in my personal opinion, sure, Pendulum Magicians, you may still be able to get it done on a budget. I mean, Agent Persuasion already put up a second place list deck profile for, I think, a locals of pendulums that were able to win under the new ban list at second place, which is pretty impressive considering all odds stacked against them. But again, it's still a problem that's going to present itself for the budget players. Those who can afford the Ash Blossoms and the Heavy Metalfoes Electrum, it's a free ride for you. But for those who can't afford it, I don't see it happening for you. I think you're just going to have to drop it altogether. And the other honorable mention is Blue Eyes. Blue Eyes is still a very strong deck, might I add. For the infamously famous Dragon Spirit of White being able to banish spells and traps. This is generally the answer that you want to be playing to Pendulums, because their skills, if you pop them with an effect, they get more effects that trigger off, and then you pop them again with a strike, then their effects trigger off again, so it's just increasingly annoying. There are two ways to work around that: Cosmic Cyclone, Dragon Spirit of Light. This deck can do Dragon Spirit of Light more times than what any other deck inside in Cosmic Cyclone can. So you can always just banish their skills over and over and over again every time they try to play. And you have Return the Dragon Lords to banish from the graveyard in order to protect your dragons as well. And should you happen to get Chaos Max out there, and your opponent has a defense position monster of 0 defense, they will be punished for it, indeed. The reason that I have to put Blue as an honorable mention spot is for 2 reasons. No offense to the Blue Eyes players on this channel, but the deck loses very easily to good old sexy Lolly Ash Blossom. Wait, did I just say the card's sexy? No. What the fuck's wrong with me? Whatever. And the other reason, simply because of that, the deck is a little bit on the fringes of touching the $150 mark. But if you can break a couple of eggs, break a pair, and break a bank, then you should be able to complete the entire thing. Whether you're running the ritual version or the standardized version of the Sage with Eyes of Blue and things like that. And alternatives and good cards like that in your list. And think about it this way, it's the only deck that actually makes competitive use of Effect Veiler. So you have that to your name as well. So those are, in my opinion, my 2 honorable mentions. This card right here is so annoying to deal with. I have stories, and 3 Stacks, aka Team King of Games, definitely has stories of getting bodied by this rogue deck that he can tell. The whole concept of this deck is to use a bunch of annoying equip spell and trap cards along with this field spell with card demise, and maybe a few other floodgates teched into the deck as well. I don't know. Whatever you feel like doing. And you just play it all together and you win. The best card in this deck being Heatwave, of course. Considering that it's literally a fucking one-sided Vanity's Emptiness for your deck for 2 whole turns, basically. Being very helpful and making the deck very consistent in its victories. And is even a good way to play against even the Mighty True Dracos, who generally there's no real out for a deck like that, outside of a card like that. So, you definitely have these options laid out for you as well. So, yeah. Phantasm Spiral is definitely something you should give a shot. And most of the cards outside of card demise are dirt cheap. And you could play some Ghost Ogres as well on the side, because Ghost Ogre is one of my favorite hand traps to use with card demise, simply because it's the only one that works under demise, which is actually hilarious, where you just draw a Ghost Ogre, normal summon it, set 2 pass. It's just funny for how that actually works. Anyways, on to number 3. Yes, this deck is number 3 on my list. Because just because we're entering a Floodgate-ish heavy format doesn't mean that people are not going to be trying to special summon. Special summon is still going to be a huge part of the game, especially with the new Link monsters rolling around. You think Clipboard Towers is going to be a problem for you? Give this a try. And guess what? You'll be able to do really well, because again, unless if that random Draco player comes up, they're not going to get over a barrier statue with several back row and Moon Mirror Shield equipped to it. Especially if you play the right tech cards going second. You think they're going to be able to get over that when you're going first? No. And now, and at the end of the video, I have to discuss this budget list and how I came to the idea of putting this together the way it is, and why the ban list is probably the most influential factor of this deck. Because keep in mind, with Spirals getting hit, they don't have Spiral Tough anymore. They can't search Spiral Tough anymore. So they're going to have a much more hard time beating this deck, whether they go first or second. Because Spiral Tough gave him giving this deck a hard time even when it went first. And when Spiral have to go second against this, they have, again, Spiral Tough. It helps them deal with this deck. I mean, Draco matchup is just a walk in the park for them because they don't freaking special summon at all. But again, if you go to a Rogue Locals card shop that has a lot of people who use Rogue decks that special summon a lot, like say Dark Lords, or Burning Abyss, or Pendulum Magicians, if you can get to a Locals like that and you control the meta with, control the Rogue decks with this, you may be able to get yourself into the top 4 with it. And Card Demise is getting reprinted in the Kaiba box edition, so this deck is probably going to be under $50. Now Demise is getting reprinted. So there's something for all of you to keep in mind about. Should you happen to want to play barrier statues and have the same level of efficiency that I do in my list, and you weren't able to get your hands on Card Demise, Demise is getting reprinted, Drone Lockbird is getting reprinted, and Ogre is getting reprinted. So you have these options as well. Oh, and keep in mind, Sideframe Gamma is getting reprinted too, which I will indeed be buying. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Time for number 2. Counter Fairies is number 2 on my list. The reason I have this deck on the list, this high on the list in the first place, is the fact that Judgment came back to 1. All you need is 1 copy of this card. Okay? You're gonna draw it out, you're gonna search it out off of the Sacred Air Knight Parshaft. Okay, anyone that thinks that this is not going to be a useful card to counter Fairy at all, you're a fucking moron. Because this card is going to be a very detrimental factor into that deck having an impact on the game. Judgment is literally a one-time stopper that stops anything. When a monster will be summoned or a spell or trap card is activated, pay half your life points and boom, gone. Never to be seen again. And with Gain Ariande, you don't even pay half. And even if you don't have Ariande, you can use all the other Solemns. You'll still have life points to pay because your life will always be able to be halved. This card didn't even receive an errata. That's what's funny about it. The whole thing. It's back at 1 and it never received an errata. You can use the Sanctum of Parshaft to just spin this shit back in your deck. Or you can use Minerva for a Scholar of the Sky to get this shit from your graveyard back to your hand when you use a different counter trap like say Strike or Divine Punishment. So, and it's the ultimate counter trap. It stops anything generally except the monster effect. But you have Strike for that, so it doesn't even matter. It's okay. It's gonna be fine for you. This is the greatest factor I had to use to decide to put Counter Fairy high on my budget list. Again, Demise is getting reprinted. Desires is already reprinted. Duality's been cheap for years. Duality's without a doubt been cheap for years. So that's going to be a very important factor in the idea of your deck getting really cheap. So and on top of that, again, Demise is getting reprinted. So the deck is going to be cheap. It's going to be able to be built for under $100. And maybe depending on what you're side decking, it may tip on a little bit on the icebergy section of a little bit over 100. But that's the price you pay for building a budget deck. You have to tip a little bit over 100 sometimes to be able to get the competitive edge running a rogue deck. And chances are you have a common Solemn Judgment laying around from that old fairy structure deck you brought back in the days. I'm pretty sure you have that Solemn Judgment laying around somewhere. Dig it out, put it in Counter Fairies, and make it roll. Because if you don't make it roll, the world's gonna roll for you. Anyways, if you guys have been watching my channel long enough, you should already know what number 1 on the list is. Especially with the cards that came off the one spell card that came off the list and another spell card that came back to 1, which also helps this deck, by the way, is the mighty god himself, Herald of Perfection. Number one on the list, non-debatedly. This is the second ban list in a row in the year that has given this deck a helping hand. Not just with Preparation of Rites flat out coming off the list, back to 3 full power Herald, no restrictions whatsoever. But we got Monster Reborn back to 1 without Narada as well. You know what that means? We can Tekken Monster Reborn as a 1-of in this. Special summon stick chair, a stick back, and just go for the stick chair combo. We can run a Monster Reborn with a soul charging deck. And we can use Ritual Sanctuary to spin those cards back in the deck again and again and again. And like you can spend those 2 back in the deck in order to summon, I don't know, Eva or Cyber Petite Angel from the graveyard back to the field and get a free search. Or you can summon Herald of Arclight, Orange Light, and sync with Herald and itself is a level 2 for Omega. You can do whatever you want with the deck now. Basically, this deck has become perfection for its own self. The only thing you have to worry about is counter traps. Because the Kaijus, you already have a solution to that. It's called Archlord Christia. Basically, the only budget deck that's going to beat this one is number 2 on my list. And number 3 if number 3 goes first. That's it. This is the best budget deck you can possibly play. And if you need help building the Herald deck, check out Team Kina Games. Do your research. You don't have to rely on me for information. You can do your own homework and figure out why I'm putting this deck so high on my list almost every time. You have Stick Chair available. You can even go Weather Painter Heralds if you want, even though that's going to be more for the meta-based players. But generally, if you're going budget, you're going to be doing old school classic Stick Chair Herald. If you're not interested in spending a lot of money on it, you're going to be playing Stick Chair Herald. You can try Weather Painter Herald, which is more consistent, but you know, you do what you do. It's a thing, you know? D-Barrier's not being played as much anymore because links are out. If links weren't out, you still have to worry about D-Barrier. Strike's not being played as much because there's a lot of back row hate. Even though that I have my own solutions for Hey True Nade. That just came out in the new Extreme Forces booster pack. I have my own solutions for that nonsense of a card. I have my own solutions for that trash and other back row hate. But yeah, that's why people may have been dropping Strike lately. But I say the Strike may start coming back. But if back row is an issue for you, Denko Seka, Royal Decree, Twin Twisters, Side Cosmic Cyclones, and the first turn monsters on the board are an issue for you. Raw Spear Mode got reprinted. You can run that too. You can run 3 Gamasio, the Sea Turtle Kaiju if you don't want to be too technical on the monsters being used for it. You can side the hand. You can use the Gammas because Gamma's getting ready to be reprinted as well. So that's gonna fit into Herald's budget as well. Only thing you need to make sure is that you got a copy of Sideframe Driver laying around. Which, keep in mind, I was lucky enough to get a bunch of those vanilla Sideframe drivers before the hype started. So yeah, this is gonna be fun to run Herald of Perfection on a budget in this format, considering in my personal opinion it's the best budget deck by far. And if you're on a budget, this is gonna give you the best consistent chance of victory. And now that the Gammas are getting reprinted, you should be able to run Herald on a competitive edge without having to worry about your pre-prep getting ashed every game. Or your pre-prep getting drolled, or your terraforming getting drolled after you search. And if you're worried about Trickstar Reincarnation, side Espeon. Not Espeon, Espeonon. Sideframe Espeonon, something like that. You know what? I'm just gonna call it Espeon. Whatever. I really don't care. I'm just so excited with this list right now because this list allows so many different decks to just jump into the action. So yeah, guys, these are my top 5 best decks for the format. Generally, the 2 that I mentioned That being a Pendulum Magician and Blue Eyes. Again, Blue Eyes is a little bit on the pricier side. I couldn't really fit it in here. It didn't really have any room here. Pendulum Magician, I feel lost a bit too much. I feel it lagged way behind a bit too much for it to qualify to be on my list. And even then, Herald will still, my personal opinion, be number one, considering that it got the most utility out of the ban list. Out of all the rest of the budget decks on my list, just outside of Counter Fairy. But yeah, you can do what you do. You do what you do. Some other YouTubers are going to be putting out their budget list for this format too. Since the ban list has rolled around, it's time for a budget deck season to give the poor people, like some of you that may be watching my show, a budget alternative, or maybe those who are in between who have some of the expensive cards but don't want to spend too much on a rich deck. How boring it is. These are some budget alternatives that you can throw your Evenly Master Ash Blossoms into. You can do whatever you need. See ya, guys. Hope you enjoy. Peace.